tonight to have the father and son team of Howard and Mitchell Kaneff. Howard Kaneff was the second generation owner and CEO of Arkay Packaging, which is based in New York and now based in Virginia as well. And Mitchell is the third generation CEO and owner of Arkay, having taken over from his father in 1997. Mitchell also is the author of Taking Over, Insider Tips from a third generation CEO, which I highly recommend, and everyone's going to get a copy to take with them tonight. And I know Mitchell loves to sign books, so it's probably available to do that as well.
Well, all I can think of as we sit here thinking about succession planning in business, which is really what I got involved in this book, is that you were in a situation where your father basically died, and then you became president. And so some of the things that affected our succession plan was the opportunities of there was no plan. So from that became, well, we need to plan. So with 90 years, which we're celebrating this year, a lot of it came out of these types of stories.
Is that what inspired you to write? I think you answered this in part. What really inspired you to write the book?
Oh, it was just out of kind of sanity. I was in a position where I was journaling out of college, and I always thought it was kind of just, I wasn't ever a great writer. I was dyslexic, so one of the challenges that I always found was that I wasn't a good student to begin with. And my high school headmaster said to me on the way out, he said, "Really journal?" I said, okay, so one thing I pride myself on is I'm a student. I think everybody has something to teach us, even though it's what not to do. And so it was a good idea. And from there, when my father would come in and we had very different styles, I would just pull my journal, start writing down stuff, and I would take a deep breath and I would start feeling better. So it was very therapeutic. And it saved me in many ways. And then I started looking for, where's there a family business book out there? So it was, what to expect when you're expecting. I wasn't having a child, but I was having 200 employees and 2 plants. I didn't know what to do. And so I started just writing down all the things that I saw, learned, and YPO was, again, a great opportunity where I met some of the smartest people in the room and in the world, and they all had their stories, and I started listening to the people like Mitch Modell, who ran Modell Sporting Goods, and some of the other people out there, and said, well, what worked for you? And then I just said, I'm onto something, and I just started writing.
So let's talk a little more about succession planning. I know in the book, Mitchell, you talk about and really have a passion for succession planning as a process. It has to be a process, and that you have to start early.
Well, I would say one of the things that was interesting for me is that I didn't really realize some of the things that my father was doing early on. And I got a phone call and he said, I'd like you to go up to our lawyer's office. I was 18 at the time. And I walk into the lawyer's office, and it's this big Madison Avenue lawyer at a big desk, and sits down, and he's got 2 big pens and pieces of paper in front. I said, why am I here? He said, well, you're signing your will. And I said, I don't own anything. And he says, yes, you do. So that was an awakening to kind of getting a first-hand responsibility thrown at you pretty early, pretty young, when we really didn't talk about it then. So I credit you with going through that difficult strike and that period of low valuation and taking that opportunity to do that. So I say it's early and often.
So Mitchell, you may be best known in family business circles and maybe at home for having fired your father, at least the way you describe it. Why don't you tell us that story and how it's affected business and how it's affected your relationship, and then maybe we'll get Dad's side of it too.
My dad and I have always been close, so he may have had his plan, but my plan was to try and change him. That wasn't going to happen. So I was hoping that he would stay on as long as possible, and it didn't happen. So the story really is that I've worked with an industrial psychologist, which is another tip that I give in the book. I think it's important that there's so much emotional challenges that are involved in the actual event of being in business, that it's important to have somebody come in and mediate at times this process. What needs to be done? Well, what do you want from the business? What does she want from the business? What is he? What is he?
And I didn't like him.
So he said, but I let him. He's the one who recommended him. So I said, great. Well, he hired him. So let's try and use this guy. So we hired him, didn't we? So anyway, we developed what I was hoping rules or guidelines of how we were going to work together. I was now president. I think it was 2004, so I had become president in '97. I'm now running on my 7th year in the business. We'd gone through 10 plant managers. It was quite challenging. I was dealing with very low income periods. We had all this overhead, all this debt, and it was very stressful. And anyway, I go on a business trip with my wife here, buddy here, Michael Koppler's in the room. And he was one of the group of men that was with me when I was in Las Vegas, and we were on a forum retreat out there. And my COO at the time had been with the company 30 years, my right-hand man, helps me run the business. He crossed the picket line, by the way, at that strike when he was 17 years of age. So he had been in the business pretty much his whole life and is one of the best guys in the business. Anyway, he picks up the phone. I just went to bed, and it's 7 o'clock in the morning practically. I pick up the phone, and he goes, "Hi, it's Mitchell, it's Walter." He goes, I just want you to know that I'm resigning. And I said, wait, can you take a deep breath? What happened? He says, well, your father asked me to come into his office with a piece of paper and a pen and take notes. I said, pad. And I said, you know, I've put in too many years in this company, I've earned too much respect. I said, I really love you guys both, but I can't do this anymore. You'll have my letter of resignation at your desk when you're back. I said, I will take care of this. This will happen. And I said, just take a deep breath. And he said, okay. So the next phone call, pick up the phone, it's 10 o'clock New York time, and there happens to be an accountant in the room with him at the time at his apartment. And I'm not a screamer, but I was screaming. And I didn't stop screaming for quite a while. So now I'm just in a frenzy, and I'm like, what do I do? And so I was looking for support, and my group of guys, we sat around the circle, and they said, well, it's Jack Welch. You know, you'll make him chairman emeritus, and you'll make yourself chairman. And
that was good.
And I said, you know, I mean, I was really young, and I was like, chairman? Oh, like president. I was just getting to be the president. I said, okay. So I'm on the plane, and I just write up this whole letter on the plane on the flight home, and I typed it up, and I handed him the letter. Basically said, you know, this is my objective, this is what I'm doing for the company. You know, I'm going to pay you back everything in terms of subordinated debt you owe, but I need to take the company in a different direction, and we can't have two quarterbacks on the field at the same time. So please honor me, and sit down. And the line I put in the book is all great kings are tied, putting it killed. So, I didn't put the one that killed.
I need to play the song.
But you know, back in those days, you either got beheaded or you retired. So he embraced me and hugged me, and I was the one crying. And he said, "I'm proud of you, and I'm ready, and thank you."
He rescued me, in a sense, because I could have gone on to the very end, and it was very comfortable being on the throne, and moving the chess pieces around.
So how do you think your father most influenced you, both in business and in life? And maybe we touched on some of it, but maybe not.
The biggest gift my dad gave me is discipline. I think at the end of the day, I'm able to do the things that I do because I beat the hell out of myself. And I get out of bed in the morning and I work out, and I've been studying music for 30 years, and I've got a rock band, and obviously having written this book. So, you know, you can't do those things unless you're organized and you've got a schedule, and, you know, it's through discipline. So I think the greatest gift was that.
With regard to my father, for me, was the fact that my father was stern, but trusted. And obviously with his boys, one of the stories that I didn't tell was at the age of 8, my father came home from work to the dinner table and announced that he just made a payroll for his boys. This is a boy. So he considered his all of the people that worked with him part of the family. I think one of the things that I think I passed on to Mitchell is take care of your boys. And I think that's a heritage thing.
And girls.
And girls. Well, there you go. There you go. Still sorry for you.
sons are going to take over the business?
Well, I certainly hope so. I think the challenge is we all live in a very insane world these days. Things are happening faster and faster, and I don't even know what next year is going to look like, let alone 15 years from now. But one thing I have done is I keep bringing home what I do. So I make stuff for a living. Unlike numbers, I'm actually able to bring home boxes. I make Justin Bieber boxes, so they love Justin Bieber. So it's an opportunity to bring home a celebrity or a Taylor Swift box or something. And I say, this is embossing, this is stamping, this is coating. And my son Josh actually has them all stacked up in his, next to his books in his bookshelf. And I'll take them to the factory and walk around the factory. We have a ribbon cutting ceremony. The lieutenant governor called them up and they got the gift. And so my son was sitting up there screaming with these things from the governor's office. So I feel maybe our role as the next generation is just make them aware, bring them around, show them what you're doing. And maybe they'll have interest, and that's all I can do. If they want to do something else, then I'll be speaking to some people in this room about what my next steps are going to be.